You ever have one of those moments where you think, okay, if I let this slide, it'll just go away, but then you realize, nope, that's just the opening act in a three-ring circus you never bought tickets for? Yeah, that was us right after my wife got called a stranger in her own house by the self-appointed queen of our neighborhood, and then just for kicks had the cops called on her because she didn't open our door on a Saturday morning. It wasn't an insult at that point, it was open warfare. And honestly, it was almost funny how badly Karen Whitman miscalculated. She thought my wife Sarah would just roll over, apologize, maybe bake cookies and promise to obey, but Karen was dead wrong. That's the day everything changed, when those three squad cars rolled up, lights flashing, and Karen strutted out there thinking she'd just crushed the new family on the block. Let me back up a sec. Sarah and I had moved to Millbrook just 3 months before, looking for some peace and quiet, maybe a place to grow old together, walk the dog. Nothing fancy. Sarah's always been the kind of person who doesn't say much about her job, just mentions she coordinates with law enforcement sometimes, which sounded boring to me. I'm a data analyst for an insurance company. 37, real exciting stuff, right? But what we didn't know is that we'd moved in next to the kind of neighbor you read about on forums and pray you never meet, Karen Whitman. Age 38, president of the Pine Valley HOA, tyrant by birthright. She ran the place like her own little North Korea rulebook in one hand, camera in the other, just waiting to catch you breathing wrong. Within days of moving in, we became her project, her favorite targets. But I don't think she realized just how badly she'd underestimated us, or more specifically, my wife. The nightmare started with something so dumb I still laugh thinking about it. Our car was, get this, 2 inches too close to the curb. Not kidding. I measured it myself. Next morning, there's a $200 violation on our windshield, big red letters, Ordinance 15.3, improper parking. Sarah stared at that ticket like she was looking for a hidden camera. What the hell is Ordinance 15.3? She asked, eyes half closed. So I spent an hour flipping through the 200-page HOA manual Karen personally dumped on our doorstep. Buried in the appendix, it says cars must be 3 to 6 inches from the curb. This rule, by the way, had been made up just the week before after we moved in. David, Sarah said, writing it all down in her little leather notebook, this is oddly specific. You know what I mean? First week, Karen launched a full-scale campaign. Every morning, 700 a.m. sharp, she's outside with her measuring tape camera, muttering just loud enough for us to hear, 1.7 inches, clear violation, total disrespect. She snapped pictures from every angle like we were a crime scene. Sarah tried to play it cool, but I could see her clenching her jaw, scribbling in that notebook more than usual. "You okay, babe?" I asked, catching her at the kitchen table surrounded by printouts and HOA emails. "I've never met anyone quite this persistent," she said, and the way she said it made me wonder if maybe, just maybe, Karen had finally met her match. Then the propaganda started. Karen wasn't content with just tickets. She started sending emails to the whole neighborhood, attaching photos of our car, red arrows pointing at the tires, dramatic block letters about threats to community standards. Neighbors started giving us sideways looks at the mailbox. One even crossed the street to avoid me. "This is insane," I told Sarah after the second ticket. "She's treating us like criminals over parking." Sarah just leafed through what looked suspiciously like legal docs. "Some people use power just because they can, not because they should." Her tone told me she'd been here before. Second week, Karen called an emergency HOA meeting, projected giant photos of our car on a screen, laser pointer in hand. I kid you not. 30 people staring at us like we'd robbed a bank. The Mitchells have violated parking regs 15 times in 10 days, she declared. Blatant disrespect, negative impact on property values. Slide after slide. A neighbor, Jim Bradley, sweet old guy, raised his hand and said, "Karen, their car looks fine to me." Karen, undeterred, pointed at the numbers, 1.8 inches, 3-inch minimum clear, defiance. I noticed Sarah was silent, just jotting down every detail in her notebook, her face a total mask. When asked if we wanted to defend ourselves, she simply said, "Not at this time," with a calm that was almost spooky. By the third week, Karen's harassment turned personal. She tracked our schedules, appeared at our driveway whenever Sarah left for work, clipboard in hand. One day I found Sarah standing outside, tears in her eyes, first time I'd ever seen her crack. She told the neighbors, "I'm an illegal resident and you're too stupid to know it," she said, shaking. Said, "I probably tricked you into marrying me." I saw something harden in Sarah's face that day. something that said she'd been underestimated before and she wasn't about to let it happen again. Fourth week, Karen went nuclear. She accused us of vandalizing the sidewalk because of a crack that had been there since before we moved in. She presented evidence photos, timestamps, the works, and demanded $3,000 for repairs at another emergency meeting. Sarah stood up, her voice flat and ice cold. "Are you absolutely sure you want to go down a legal path?" "Mrs. Whitman?" Karen laughed. "What, are you a lawyer or something?" Sarah's smile was chilly. "No, but I understand the law better than you think." Karen puffed up, threatened a lawsuit if we didn't pay by Monday. Monday rolled around. Sarah wasn't paying up. Instead, she spent hours printing documents, making calls, filing a formal complaint about HOA harassment with the right oversight body. Karen stung, lashed out, banned us from the pool park trash bins, posted signs threatening $500 fines for anyone helping us. "She's lost it," I told Sarah. She just smiled and kept reading through statutes. "Not even close to legal," she muttered. And then came Saturday. Karen stormed up to our door, pounded until the walls shook. And when we didn't answer, she called 911, said we were obstructing official government business. Next thing you know, 3 police cars out front. Karen looking smug, ready for her victory lap. The lead cop, Sergeant Peterson, walked up all official. Received a report about obstruction failure to comply with HOA president. Karen was beaming. Sarah stepped out, hair wet, wearing workout clothes, but suddenly she was different. Stood up straighter, voice calm, steady as a surgeon's hand. "Sergeant Peterson, isn't it?" she said. He froze, eyebrows up. "Yes, ma'am, but I don't believe we've met." Sarah handed him an ID. His face changed confusion, shock, then absolute respect. "Sarah Chen, Chief of Police, Millbrook Township." The 2 other officers snapped to attention. Karen's jaw hit the ground. Sarah turned to Karen, still polite. "I'm Sarah Chen, the new Chief of Police here. Started 3 months ago. But on weekends I prefer not to wear my uniform at home." Karen stuttered, pointing at me. "But you're just his wife." Sarah just smiled, squeezed my hand, then turned to the officers. "Sergeant, any law here require a resident to open their door for an HOA president?" Peterson shook his head. "No, ma'am." Sarah explained, clear professional, that the HOA had no law enforcement authority and that filing a false police report was a misdemeanor. Karen looked like she might pass out. Neighbors started gathering. Jim Bradley at the front, shaking his head. "Karen, you've gone way too far. The Mitchell's car is fine. I measured it myself." Murmurs of agreement. Sarah produced a thick folder, documents, video, evidence, timestamps showing the sidewalk crack predated us, security footage of Karen stalking our property, even emails linking Karen to a development company, trying to pressure people into selling their homes cheap. One email, clear as day, had Karen promising to target the Mitchell family to scare others into selling. The whole room erupted. Within minutes, neighbors called for her removal. A retired attorney in the crowd confirmed that the new parking ordinance was illegal. Someone motioned to vote her out, nearly unanimous. Karen sat alone, shaking. Sarah stood tall. "We'll rebuild this community right." The room applauded, and for the first time you could feel the tension break. The aftermath was almost poetic. Karen was charged with filing false police reports and abuse of public trust. The development company cut her loose, paid a big fine to the township, and pulled their plans for the neighborhood. Karen and her husband moved out in shame, their house sold at a loss. A little ironic justice. Jim Bradley became interim HOA president, Sarah, his legal advisor. The rulebook shrank from 200 pages to 25, no more insane rules about curb inches, no more weaponized fines. The community started coming together, block parties, kids playing, people helping each other again. 6 months later, Pine Valley was known as the model neighborhood in Millbrook property, values up. People actually happy to live there. Real estate agents advertised it as the place that beat the HOA tyrant. Sarah got an award from the mayor. A year on the community installed a plaque, Pine Valley, where justice and conscience always prevail. Funded, ironically, by the penalty fees from Karen's old buddies. And every time I walk past that plaque, I remember the lesson we all learned. Real power doesn't come from titles or money. It comes from respect, trust, and doing right by your people. Authority without accountability is just tyranny. But leadership, real leadership, makes everyone better. So what would you have done in our shoes? Do you think we went too far or not far enough? Tell me where you stand, because honestly, this story is not just about Karen or Sarah or even our neighborhood. It's about what we all do when someone finally stands up to a bully and says, enough.